Hey guys! Today we're going to be reading Chapter 3 and 4 of Roald Dahl's Fantastic Mr. Fox. Chapter 3 is called The Shooting. "Well, my darling," said Mr. Fox, "what shall it be tonight?" "I think we'll have duck tonight," said Mrs. Fox. "Bring us 2 fat ducks, if you please, one for you and me, and one for the children." "Duck it shall be," said Mr. Fox. "Bunce is best." "Now, do be careful," said Mrs. Fox. "My darling," said Mr. Fox, "I can smell those goons a mile away. I can even smell one from the other. Boggis gives off a filthy stink of rotten chicken skins, and Bunce reeks of goose livers. And as for Bean, the fumes of apple cider hang around him like poisonous gases." "Yes, but just don't get careless," said Mrs. Fox. "You know they'll be waiting for you, all 3 of them." "Don't you worry about me," said Mr. Fox. "I'll see you later." But Mr. Fox would not have been quite so cocky had he known exactly where the 3 farmers were, where they were waiting at that moment. They were just outside the entrance to the hole, each one crouching behind a tree with his gun loaded. And what is more, they had chosen their positions very carefully, making sure that the wind was not blowing from them towards the fox's hole. In fact, it was blowing in the opposite direction. There was no chance of them being smelled out. Mr. Fox crept up in the dark tunnel to the mouth of his hole. He poked his long, handsome face out into the night air and sniffed once. He moved an inch or 2 forward and stopped. He sniffed again. He was always especially careful when coming out from his hole. He inched forward a little more. The front half of his body was now in the open. His black nose twitched from side to side, sniffing and sniffing for a scent of danger. And he found none. And he was just about to go trotting forward into the wood when he heard, or thought he heard, a tiny noise. A soft rustling sound, as though someone had moved a foot ever so gently through a patch of dry leaves. Mr. Fox flattened his body against the ground and laid very still. His ears pricked up. He waited a long time, but he heard nothing more. It must have been a field mouse, he told himself, or some other small kind of animal. He crept a little further out of the hole, then further still. He was almost right out in the open now. He took his last careful look around. The wood was murky and still, very still. Somewhere in the sky the moon was shining. Just then his sharp night eyes caught a glint of something bright behind a tree not so far away. It was a small silver speck of moonlight, shining on a polished surface. Mr. Fox lay still, watching it. What on earth was it? Now it was moving. It was coming up and up and... Great heavens! It was the barrel of a gun! Quick as a whip, Mr. Fox jumped back into his hole, and at the same instant the entire wood seemed to explode around him. Bang! 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 The smoke from all 3 guns floated upwards in the night sky. Boggis and Bunce and Bean came out from behind their trees and walked towards the hole. "Did we get him?" said Bean. One of them shone a flashlight into the hole, and there on the ground in the circle of light, half an inch, half out of the hole, half in, lay the poor, tattered, blood-stained remain of a fox's tail. Bean picked it up. "We got the tail, but we missed the fox," he said, tossing the thing away. Oh, no. "Dang and blast," said Boggis. "We shot too late. We should have let them fly the moment he poked his head out." "He won't be poking it out again in a hurry," Bunce said. Bean pulled a flask from his pocket and took a swig of cider. Then he said, "It'll take 3 days at least before he gets hungry enough to come out again. I'm not sitting around here waiting for that. Let's dig him out." "Ah," said Boggis, "now you're talking. Now you're talking some sense. We can dig him out in a couple of hours. We know he's in there." "I reckon there's a whole family of 'em down in that hole," said Bunce. "Then we'll have a lot," said Bean. "Get the shovels." Uh-oh. This isn't good for Mr. Fox and his family. Chapter 4. The Terrible Shovels. Down the hole, Mrs. Fox was tenderly licking the stump of Mr. Fox's tail to stop the bleeding. "It was the finest tail for miles around," she said, between licks. "It hurts," said Mr. Fox. "I know it does, sweetheart, but it'll soon get better." "And it will soon grow again, Dad," said one of the small foxes. "It will never grow again," said Mr. Fox. "I shall be tailless for the rest of my life." And he looked very glum. Poor Mr. Fox. There was no food for the foxes that night, and soon the children dozed off. Then Mrs. Fox dozed off, but Mr. Fox couldn't sleep because of the pain in the stump of his tail. "Well," he thought, "I suppose I'm lucky to be alive and all. And now they've found our hole. We're going to have to move out as soon as possible. We'll never get any peace if we—" Huh? What was that? He turned his head sharply and listened. The noise he heard now was the most frightening noise a fox can ever hear. The scrap, scrap, scrapping of shovels, digging in the soil. "Wake up!" he shouted. "They're digging us out!" Mrs. Fox was wide awake in 1 second. She sat up quivering all over. "Are you sure that's it?" she whispered. "I'm positive. Listen." "They'll kill my children!" cried Mrs. Fox. "Never," said Mr. Fox. "But, darling, they will!" sobbed Mrs. Fox. "You know that they will!" Scrunch, scrunch, scrunch went the shovels above their heads. Small stones and bits of earth began falling from the roof of the tunnel. "How will they kill us, Mommy?" asked one of the small foxes. His round black eyes were huge with fright. "Will there be dogs?" he said. Mrs. Fox began to cry. She gathered her 4 children close to her and held them tight. Suddenly there was an especially loud crunch above their heads, and the sharp end of the shovel came right through the ceiling. "Oh, no! There's the shovel." The sight of this awful thing seemed to have an elastic effect upon Mr. Fox. He jumped up and shouted, "I've got it! Come on! There's not a moment to lose! Why didn't I think of it before?" "Think of what, Dad?" "A fox can dig quicker than a man," shouted Mr. Fox, beginning to dig. "Nobody in the world can dig as quick as a fox." The soil began to fly and furiously behind Mr. Fox as he started to dig for dear life with his front feet. Mrs. Fox ran forward to help him, and so did the 4 children. There they are, digging their way out. "Go downwards," ordered Mr. Fox. "We've got to go deep as we possibly can." The tunnel began to grow longer and longer. It sloped steeply downwards. Deeper and deeper below the surface of the ground it went. The mother and father and all 4 of the children were digging together. Their front legs were moving so fast you couldn't even see them. And gradually the scrunching and scraping of the shovels became fainter and fainter. After about an hour, Mr. Fox stopped digging. "Hold it," he said, and they all stopped. They turned and looked back up the long tunnel that they had just dug. All was quiet. "Phew," said Mr. Fox, "I think we've done it. They'll never get as deep as this. Well done, everyone." They all sat down, panting for breath, and Mrs. Fox said to her children, "I should like you to know that if it wasn't for your father, we should all be dead by now. Your father is a fantastic fox." Mr. Fox looked at his wife, and she smiled. He loved her more than ever when she said things like that. All right, that's the end of chapter 4. Come back next week, and we'll see what happens next. All right, bye.